CBS Sports, and you know who this is. He is the UFC's number 4 ranked heavyweight contender, fighting Tom Aspinall for the interim heavyweight crown at UFC 304 on Saturday. He is as sharp as I am dull. Curtis Razor Blaydes, how's it going, my man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for accommodating this today. There seems to be a lot of buzz for 304. How's are you on this weird like waking up to fight at 4 a.m. sleep schedule yet or not quite?
No. When we get to England, we'll be awake during the evenings and sleep during the day. Because right now we're already on the time that we're supposed to be on. We're gonna be doing our best to maintain that schedule.
So when are you actually making the trip out to the UK?
21st is Sunday.
21st. Okay, well, good luck with the adjusted sleep schedule. It's kind of crazy, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, they call you Razor Blades, but it sounds like Tom and Aspinall has now got hands of stone. Have you heard this really weird story that he's like dipping his knuckles in petrol to like harden them ahead of this fight? Does that really work?
I haven't heard of that story. I never heard of that within like the MMA community, but I know a lot of guys do a lot of weird stuff like Jiri, he does his whole spirituals, samurai, all that stuff. Whatever you got to do to get in the right headspace to make yourself believe that you're at your best, to each your own. But no, I hadn't heard
Uh,
about it.
Yeah, apparently it's Gypsy Joe Joyce's old secret for like bare knuckle boxing to like tighten
Oh,
the skin there. I don't know. What on the note of, MMA fighters are not entirely, not in totality, but often kind of weirdos. What's like the most like absurd training practice that some or technique idea? What's just like the weirdest like routine that someone has tried to get you on in MMA?
mm, I guess like it's not it's not like really that weird, but for me, I don't really, I'm not really into that. They wanted me to get into doing like you have this headset with like a string on it with the
With the
ball,
ball.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So
No,
that's that's probably the weirdest thing.
that's so funny. There's been, let's talk a little bit about 304 now. Obviously, you were in the co main event for the interim heavyweight title, but there is this sort of conversation on the periphery. The legendary, mythical, may or may not happen Jon Jones Stipe Miocic fight. I'm curious, how would you feel if you were in Tom's shoes and you think an interim title should lead to an undisputed title shot, and here you are taking other fights, hoping that Joe's and Miocic one day make it happen.
Um, it's gotta be weird because this is almost, I think this is the first interim holder of a belt to have to actually defend their interim title. I don't know if I heard that or
I
where I
think
heard
it's the
that
fourth, but it's like
before.
super
Doesn't
rare if you
happen often.
consider like a 30
Yeah,
year history. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, at least you're still getting paid. You got to be happy about that. You're getting a fight, you're getting an opportunity to make some money. Because who knows? If you just wanted to wait, it could be a long, long wait without making a paycheck. So that's how I would. That's what I would do. At least we're making money.
Now, the last time that you came to Tom's neck of the woods to fight him, obviously a victory for you, but sort of an inconclusive one, a very early knee injury that took Tom out of it. In a sense, I'm really happy. In that sense, I'm really happy that we get to run this back. I always put out a fan Q&A, and there were a few people wondering. I know that you don't game plan like for specific opponents, but is that knee something that is
No,
going to be maybe a weakness for him that you look to exploit?
nah. I mean, not unless it's something I can immediately target or if there's a read with a limp. But that's not like the game plan. Oh, attack is injured. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I can't even tell you which one it is off
I can't either.
off the dome. So no, that's not part of the game plan. Uh, I don't want to win by an injury. 'Cause
Totally.
that stains the win. You can't really brag about a win when a guy got injured. So if that happens, it happens. I'll take the belt, but it's not the plan.
You did mention, I think, in Denver during the UFC fight night that you don't really like hyper focus your game plans to a specific fighter. It's about growing yourself. Conditioning is always a top priority. I am curious, like, what are some of the benefits you think you glean from kind of like generalizing the camp and not making it ultra specific to one fighter?
Um, I'm able to just get better at holes. Like if if
Mm-hmm.
I was to be very specific, a lot of my opponents are like typically the same, power punchers. So I would only be getting getting ready for slow power punching guys. And then you get a guy like Tom, and you have to switch everything up. I just think that would be a lot like mentally to have to drastically address something like that. I like to just focus on things I do, things I want to get better at. So if it's like adding a body kick or adding a switch kick, those are things I want to get better at just because I want to get better at them. Not because I think, oh, this specific technique is going to exploit a specific weakness. That's just never how I've approached any of my opponents. And I'm a big subscriber of if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it. You mentioned how I don't quite remember what interview it was in, so apologies for not sourcing it, but how in some ways you kind of agree with the sentiment that Tom is the real heavyweight champion. We're not quite sold yet on the idea that Jon Jones is a long-term heavyweight. I am curious, do you also agree with the pocket of fans that believe that Tom Aspinall would beat Jon Jones?
I mean, I'm not going to say a definitive like yes.
Fair.
Well, I believe he has the tools. Yeah. Well, I believe like when John fought uh OST, I didn't believe OST had a shot. When John fought Anthony Smith, I like Anthony, but I didn't think he had the tools in order to beat John. When John went in there with or went in there with um the Swedish guy,
Alexander
Gustafsson.
Gustafsson.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I believe that they have the tools in order to win. I'm not going to say yeah, 100% they're going to win, but there is a path to victory for all those guys I mentioned, including Aspinall.
Okay. I just want to pivot very quickly, not with a question, but with a statement, which is Alex Behunin always does these like humanizing athletes pieces, and I saw one he did with you, and I want to let you know that stating that Princess Mononoke is one of your favorite films
Uh-huh.
cements that you are a man of culture. So congratulations on having good taste, Curtis.
Thank you. No, that's one of my favorite anime movies of all time.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that got me into really seeking out other animes.
Okay, love that, love that. So yeah, there's so many good ones, but I mean, that's a
Yeah,
conversation for a separate day on our timeline. I actually love to just talk about anime with you.
I'm
As we
always
begin to
I
wrap
love
here,
anime.
yeah, you, Max Holloway, Robert Whitaker. There's a bunch of you guys now who like really know their stuff. So there should be like a round table or something.
Oh,
Um, Honestly, man, as a fan, just kind of removing the work hat for a minute, I'm so happy to see you in this position because, as you know, there's been a couple of times where you were right on the precipice of getting that title shot, and unfortunately, a loss kind of took it from you. How does it feel to finally know that you're going to be stepping in there and that there will be a UFC title, interim or not, at stake?
yeah. The interim that doesn't mean anything to me. Like I've said in other interviews, I do believe this is the real title. That's how I'm approaching it. And just to get this opportunity, it just validates all my decisions over the past 11 years. Like me moving out here, out to Denver, moving away from Chicago, and me joining Elevation, like all the little decisions. That's what it takes. It's not like one huge decision, like in a Hollywood movie. They have like a epitome, and that's when it all. It's not like that. At least it wasn't for me. It was a bunch of small decisions and this is just the culmination of all that. And yeah, like I said, I think it means I made a lot of right decisions, and feels good.
And sometimes you make the right decisions. Sometimes you learn more through your failures, and that what really helps you take that next step. As we begin to wrap up, I'm curious on this journey that you've been on for a while to get to this UFC title shot. At what point were you feeling the lowest about the prospects? At what point were you really down on yourself the most?
Oh, probably after my rematch with Ngannou in 2018. Um, he's off a loss against Eric Lewis. I'm off a win against Alistair and against Mark Hunt. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was like heading in the right direction. Go out to Beijing, fight last like 15 seconds. I didn't really get to perform any of the new skills and techniques that I had been developing over the year. And yeah, that was a long flight home. That's like an 18-hour flight home. And it was just a lot of reflecting. But when I lose, I like to like I've always viewed it as long as you're able to take something from the loss, it's not like a total loss. And I know that I'm not the first one to have that idea, but it's a great idea, and I've been using that. So I usually, when I have a loss, I take it, reflect, and I grow, and I do my best to not repeat the same mistakes that led to the last loss. So
And clearly, those adjustments have worked. Here we are on the precipice of becoming a UFC champion. A side note that just came up in my mind, like prior to this interview, I know you do like the Mortal Kombat walkout. That elbow that you threw on Alistair Overeem that busted him open. I was on a trip with a bunch of my friends and my wife, who you absolutely like revolted and turned off MMA with that performance. That's about as close as I've seen to a
I
fatality in MMA. So I'm glad you could tie it
appreciate it.
together. Yes,
Apologies
sir.
about revolting your wife, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I've had terrible luck. The first fight I ever showed her, Anderson Silva broke her leg.
Mm.
Second one, I think like Tyron Woodley tore his ACL. Third one, you did that to Overeem, so she's giving it her fair shake. My bad, I guess. Curtis, I want to leave you with the last word. So very quickly for me, guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Subscribe, tap the bell, thumbs up. Let us know. Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes. What's your prediction? Who do you think is the top heavyweight in the sport right now? Also, what's the nastiest finish on Curtis Blaydes? Real, we'd love to hear from you, Curtis. If there's anything you want to tell the people ahead of UFC 304 on Saturday, the floor is yours, friend.
Um, just I appreciate all the support from all the fans because we all know that's how fights get made. If the fans want to see that matchup, that's usually what the UFC will do. So I understand a big reason I got this opportunity because a lot of fans were like behind me after my last win, and I appreciate it.